All right, everybody, welcome to the show. And aren't you lucky? Aren't you just the lucky ducks who stumbled in today? We've got a really special episode. Really special because as both, essentially my co-host, but more importantly, my guest today is Sydney Hatmaker.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Happy to be here.
I think this is your third time on the show.
Yeah.
Does that feel right?
Yeah, it's been a few years.
A solo episode, which, by the way, no big deal, but like out of 7 years of podcasting, the solo episode that you did with me is still, to this date, 7 years in, our number one downloaded episode. Props to you. You've beaten out such guests as Brene Brown and
Coming for you, Brene.
Jen Garner and Matt McConaughey and such.
I feel famous.
Yeah, you kind of are, to be honest. And not only is that our most downloaded episode, it won some awards.
Awards? Which were those?
Like Podcast Episode of the Year awards.
Oh.
Across, not just mine, like across the genre.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
You know how I love an award.
Yeah, yeah. You have them all mounted in the office.
Yeah, I do. And so what? So what about it?
It's fine.
It's just Enneagram 3 business right there. For those who celebrate the Enneagram, Sydney is an Enneagram 7. Don't you feel like that remains true the older you get? You are big experience, adventure, what's happening, how many people can be involved. Am I getting this right?
Yeah, definitely. Since I was a teenager, that one hasn't really shifted too much.
No, in fact, that's why you're here today. We're literally talking about a huge Enneagram 7 move you took this year. But we'll get there. We're going to get to it, everybody. First of all, you look cute today.
Well, thank you.
I like what's happening.
I got dressed for you guys.
Yeah. I told her, I'm like, just FYI, I'm like, no pressure, but it's video and audio. And so I stopped short of doing fix your hair. I didn't say it. I just left it.
It was implied.
Yeah.
Listen, I did a little blowout.
I see that. I see that.
It's one of the things that's nice about being back in the U.S. I just looked busted for the past 6 months.
That's really...
Yeah.
It's not untrue, but it was a part of the deal.
It's part of the deal. I still haven't gotten back to the root situation. We're looking at 6 months of growth here, but it's all right.
And are you going to keep it, or is it going back to platinum?
Well, I'm kind of addicted to being platinum. It's awesome. I went platinum after my first breakup in high school.
That's
been
right.
A power move. Just never went back. But
that's true. You did.
It's expensive. And my hair is kind of fried, so maybe not. We'll see.
I don't unlike your natural hair coming in there. It's like a kind of a honey brown.
Oh, God.
Oh, is that terrible?
Well, I hate to hear the word brown in relation to my hair.
No, I know. Well, and to be fair, and in your defense, you were not just blonde, a white-haired little child. White-haired. Yeah. And so it's your God-given right. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I was born blonde, but like many childhood blondes, I definitely clung to that blonde identity even as my hair has gotten dark. But some people I think are they're delusional about it. They'll be like, oh, my natural hair, it's like a dark, dirty blonde. And they're just a straight up brunette and they haven't been blonde in 10 years. So trying to not be amongst them. I can own that. It's brown. God.
It's brown.
It's terrible news.
It's brown. But if you put the word honey in front of it, it softens the blow. But I understand what you're saying. And you know what? You know my philosophy. Hair can be any color you pay it to be. Who knows what my natural color is? I hadn't seen that in 20 years. So this is just some sort of combination of colors.
Sure.
Because what it would be is gray. I'm sorry to say that's your future.
Yes.
It's your future. You kind of track after some of my body trends. So
I'll probably rock it.
Oh, gray? I could see you doing that.
Yeah, I could make it cool.
Yeah, not same. We are going shortly to talk to Sydney about what she has just experienced, which was, and I'm just putting it there so you know to stay tuned. Almost a 6-month travel the world adventure. And we're going to get to it. But because she's not just my guest, but my co-host today, we're going to do a little reverse engineering here on Gen Excellence. Okay. So, of course, normally Amy is sitting where you sit, and she and I are in our 50s, and we had the same childhood. So we can just, boom, drop right into like the bands that we listened to and how we got call waiting on our phones when we were in high school, and that felt fancy. And then how eventually Grandma got us a kid's phone upstairs with a kid's line. And that was just, you can't imagine. And so, but you are you are 24.
Right.
And so in honor of Gen Excellence and in honor of this episode, we're going to do a little Gen Excellence on travel.
Okay.
So like if I, at age 24, now, to be fair, you took this big adventure when you were 24. Literally, you turned 24 in Germany on like the second day of the whole trip.
Yeah.
2 days before you turned 24, you set off across the ocean for 6 months. When I was 24, I was pregnant with you. Yeah. And I already had a kid.
That's insane.
I know, right?
I would mess up a baby right now.
Can you imagine? Yeah. Well, does that help you understand anything that's like wrong with y'all?
A little bit. Yeah. You guys were just children. So.
Children.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we had gotten married when I was 19.
That should be illegal, maybe.
No, I know. And Dad was 21. Can you even fathom the two of us as these earnest Baptist youth?
Unreal.
Who just got married and then had procreated. So I'm sorry for whatever that was in terms of how it affected you by like being born.
Right.
And then being raised.
Right. Thank God for therapy.
No, really true.
Yeah.
Really true. Of the 5 kids, we're 5 for 5 in therapy.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry about that part. But if I, at 24, were going to set out for 6 months around the world, and you know, people did it, of course. I mean, backpacking was not invented in your generation.
Sure.
But can you even, I actually think you probably can perceive of this. I cannot. You would have we didn't have the internet. There was no internet. So first of all, let's take the internet out of your, let's just say the planning experience. Can you even think of it?
No, I can't imagine it. And I actually talked about it a lot with other backpackers while I was traveling. Just like, I don't understand how people even survived. Like, how do you even book your plane tickets? How do you know where to go? How do you know when the bus is showing up? There's no Google Translate.
That's right.
I don't know. I mean, I got a taste of it. I did talk some big game about how I felt that I was kind of missing out on something traveling in like the iPhone era, that there's just a little bit less like adventure there.
Less.
And then about 4 months in, I was on a motorbike and had my phone on the little, like mounted on the little thing for maps. It flew off the bike, screen went completely black. Yeah. So I didn't have a phone for the last 2 months of my trip. I was still in easy mode. I still had a laptop. So when I was at the hostel on Wi-Fi, I could like do some research, book things. Yeah. But it was a different type of traveling. I felt like I asked for it. I made the most of it. It ended up being a bit of an adventure. I obviously could have like tried to buy a phone out there or something.
Like I wanted you to. Like I've said to you so many times, that was my, if we're playing high-low of your trip, that was the low for me.
Okay, what I will own is I probably could have worked harder to be reaching out to people through other people's phones or whatever. But I don't know. I obviously had like an initial reaction of panic when my phone broke, but then I just felt this like complete, just like freedom. It was so much fun. And I don't know. I think by that point I felt really confident traveling and just like asking people for help. And I just realized whatever shit I got myself into, I'd just figure it out. I got lost a lot. I got some paper maps from the hostels.
Yeah, word. That's what we would have done going back to Gen Excellence. Well, you're like, how would you even book a flight? let me tell you, in the olden days, the only way to book a flight is that you looked into the yellow pages and you looked up the airline number, like the Central American Airlines call-in number. And like every other person in the United States of America, you called the number and you just waited for 1,000 years to book tickets on the phone. That's what you did.
That sounds terrible.
On the phone. And you'd get halfway through and they'd drop you, or can you just fathom it? It seems so insane now.
It seems like so much work. I love living in the 21st century.
Yeah.
I say this all the time. I love having the internet. I mean, a lot of backpackers use this website called Skyscanner that my friend Kevin showed me. And it literally searches like every single like airline and every single like travel company online when you search for flights. And it like compares them from like day to day.
What's it called?
Skyscanner.
And it's like for backpackers specifically, or for just travelers?
It's just for cheap travel. And so you basically are able to find like insanely cheap flights. They often kind of like create your own connections where they're not through the same airline. And when you land, you might have like a 10-hour layover and you have to check out, get your bags, recheck in through another airline, but it kind of links them together for you.
Sounds
so it's
terrible.
extra cheap. I think it maybe had like 5, 10 to 13-hour layovers. But hey, to save like $100 here or there.
Oh my gosh, honey, you would do it to save 12.
Yeah.
This is what we did. This is how we traveled in the olden days. Do you know about Rick Steves?
He looks vaguely familiar.
Okay, so Rick Steves would put out these little travel books and little travel shows about all these places, and you would get a little Rick Steves book or extended pamphlet, and it would have the bus routes, and here are the museums, and here are the entry fees, and here's the address, and you would just walk around with your little book. And your little atlas, for example, and then you would have your little bus schedule. And that's just how we did it. And we didn't know any better. We didn't know about the internet. It wasn't born yet. But just all of it was harder.
Yeah.
All of it was harder. And you needed a landline to make phone calls, to try to get connected. Then you're dealing with, back in the olden days, this is not something you knew either, because now we just have phones that call anywhere. But back then, you had to have a long distance phone call plan, or it would cost $100 million a minute. So you're trying to call internationally, but you don't have enough minutes. Anyways, what I'm just saying to you is it was harder.
Sounds like a lot of planning.
Yeah, and to say nothing of which, for the youngs in my age group who did this, their parents had literally no idea where they were.
Yeah.
Absolutely none. There was not tracking. We didn't have email. We didn't have phones. It was like, best of luck, I guess.
It sounds kind of awesome.
No. Sounds so terrible.
It sounds freeing. I only had a little taste of that when I flew to Vietnam. I had decided, like literally the day before, and not a single person in the world knew that I was in Vietnam. I didn't have my phone at the time. I did manage to get myself from Bangkok to Hanoi with no phone, which I thought was pretty crazy, but it felt so awesome.
This was at the point in your journey when I started having some meltdowns.
Okay.
Yeah. That was when
you handled it well on your end.
I literally did not know what country you were in. And you were doing a very bad job about emailing me. And then once I got a DM on Instagram from somebody else's phone.
Right.
And I'm just like, this is chaos. This is chaos. Anyways, let's get into it, because Gen Excellence aside, the way that we would have done this 30 or 40 years ago, I guess 30. Let's go to the beginning. And so, can you talk about where did this idea come from? How did you nurture it? Did at any point you think, no, this is crazy? I'm just going to talk about this with some romantic, dreamy idea, but I'm not going to do it. And then at what point did you go, I think I can actually do this?
So I started thinking about it my last year of college, because I was just thinking about obviously like what I wanted to do after graduating. I know that kind of consumes like everybody's mind senior year. And I just felt like, I don't know, I just had this like itch, I think, to travel, to have some crazy experiences. I think like a lot of people, my study abroad plans didn't work out because of COVID. Yeah, my like sophomore and junior year of college, which is when I would have studied abroad. I was, like stranded at home doing online classes. Like it wouldn't have been a possibility. And so, I just kind of started thinking like about doing some long-term travel on my own.
Let me interject real quick because this is how it sounded on the mom end of it. So she's having whatever conversations with her friends. But to the mom, she said something like, it's her senior year. I just want to prepare you that I might not be the person who moves straight into a career after college. And I was like, you know what? This is none of my business. Like, okay. I don't know what that means. And I was like, honey, do what you want to do, but you will do it on your own. Like you're off the payroll when you walk across the graduation stage.
I didn't expect any support.
You did not ask, but I was like, I wonder if this is coming in with the baked in idea that maybe mom helps fund it. And I was like, that's not going to be the story. But outside of that, I was like, I think I've told you 100 times, do it. I wish I could have done it. This is the time. This is the absolute season of your life. Like, now is the moment. So I was actually excited for you.
Yeah.
Even from the jump.
You were. And I really, really appreciated that support. Even while traveling, I met a lot of people who like, I don't know, they come from traditional families.
Sure.
And this type of thing was like really like judged or looked down upon, or people thought they were crazy or irresponsible or delusional or whatever. But yeah, I never expected
no, you didn't.
anyone else to kind of bankroll this. I mean, I knew like that I'd be like, it was time to be fully financially independent when I graduated, like whatever that would look like.
Because you graduated with a journalism degree.
Yeah.
Which, may still come into play, of course.
Yeah.
But you just set it on a shelf.
I just feel like, I don't know, this is the time in my life where I have just the most freedom, the least amount of responsibilities. This is a time when I can like rough it and stay in hostels and live cheap. This is a time where I can just sublease out my room to friends, and I don't have any long-term responsibilities. Nobody's depending on me. I don't have like a serious partner. Like, I don't know. This
don't
is just
even
the
have
time.
a pet.
Don't even have a pet. Yeah, this is just the time that I am freest in my life.
Could not agree more.
I just think traveling in this way will just be like harder and harder with time. And I want to do it now. And I tried to kind of take some pressure off myself and just kind of believe that like, I don't know, there's no rush. I think when I'm ready to really like move into my career, there's time and I'll be able to do that. And I trust myself too that like, I don't know, I've always had a pretty strong sense of ambition and creativity. And I think those sides of myself, like I won't neglect that.
Sure.
But that being said, I did have some big ideas that I would kind of get something out of my system on this trip. And then I'd come home and like settle down, like get a real job, like root down in one place. And then about halfway through my trip, I just realized there was so much more that I wanted to see.
Yeah.
So have started planning the next round.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know. I mean, you go to high school, go straight to college. Almost everyone that you're around follows like a very traditional path, and it feels like that's inevitable, and it feels like that's the only option available for you. And then when you're backpacking, you end up meeting like just really like fascinating people who have lived like all types of crazy alternative lifestyles. Like I met people who had been managed to travel nonstop for 5 years straight. Like I met people who had done all types of insane like volunteer opportunities, like stayed with monks in China or worked a ski season in Japan or hitchhiked through Latin America. And you just realize like there's so much to do and there's so much to see and explore and so many ways to make it happen.
Totally. The Western track is pretty formulaic.
Yeah.
And achievement oriented. Everything feels like it's a hurry. I mean, even when you guys are in high school here, you can't even just be in high school because all your teachers will talk about is when you're in college. Yeah. Like, well, you can't do this in college. Yeah. Well, once you get to college, we'll wait till you have a college professor. And so I do think that's sort of the American ideal, which is hurry up and grow up.
Yeah.
Hurry up and get there. You're already somehow behind.
Very American. Like there's not I don't think there's a big culture of this type of travel in the US. Like I only have one friend who's similarly done like some long-term backpacking. But the vast majority of people who I was traveling with and meeting were European.
Yeah.
And like, it's incredibly normal to take gap years after high school or after college, and do this type of thing. And in fact, I think it's seen as like, I don't know, kind of an essential like human experience, a big part of self-development and growth. And I honestly wish I would have taken time after high school as well. But yeah, it just feels like nobody's doing it. And like, if you go veer off the track, you'll never get back on it.
Yeah, and that is what people say. And that
you're missing out on something or falling behind people. But I think like one realization I had is just like, there's no like mythical other path that I've strayed from that I like should be on right now. Like the path that I've chosen is like the right one for me. But yeah, anyways, senior year, decided that I wanted to travel. It didn't feel real for a long time.
Right.
Because it just required like so much money, so much planning. It seemed kind of impossible to pull off even while I was really talking about doing it. But yeah, I mean, graduated, was working in fine dining because that's where you can like really stack up some cash.
Yep.
And I already live very frugally, but I just budgeted hard. Like I have very cheap rents in like an old shared house in Austin with my friends. I drive like an old like 95 4Runner that was paid off. My insurance is like $70 a month.
Yep. I
like kind of stopped going out for dinner. I only ever like thrift my clothes anyways, but I was able to stack up money quick. So I ended up saving for like 7 months. And I was able to save $14K.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, I had never saved in that way before. And I was surprised, like, I surprised myself how quickly I was able to save and how well I was able to budget.
To be clear, you were saving while also paying your bills. So I was not like paying your life so you could save. Yeah. Like you were doing both, but you just battened down the hatches.
Yeah.
And worked a lot. And somehow you did it. Like I didn't save $14 in my 20s. So like to do that in 7 months time, it's pretty disciplined.
Yeah. I mean, even it started with just like tracking my money, which I'd never done before. And like opening up a credit card and learning about how to get points. And yeah, it was pretty empowering. But also like, it's still important for me to recognize like, even though I like wasn't bankrolled by anybody else, that it's just like a unreal privilege that I was able to travel like this.
Sure.
That I was even able to save my money like that. I didn't have anyone depending on me. Like I don't have student loans. Like I was able to just like focus my entire life on this goal, which I still know like I'm very lucky and a lot of people wouldn't be able to do that.
Of course. Yeah. It's still a privileged experience.
Yeah.
Even when you're saving your own money and working at the same time. But yeah, without student loan debt and you're on my insurance still. Thanks, Obama.
And then even just being, I don't know, American, like, we're just so privileged in general. I mean, it was crazy to be traveling and meet so many amazing people who were like
the local folks.
Yeah, like local people who just like would never be able to do this. Because like wages are so much lower in other places.
There's no way to ever save that much money. Yeah.
No, yeah. And I even met this one guy who ran a hostel in Bangkok, and he was so cool and he was so fun. And he was just telling me like, I don't know, that he's lucky he gets to work in a hostel because through that he gets to meet people from all over the world. But that he just would never be able to like leave Asia, and that like financially wouldn't even be possible. And he even ended up falling in love with a woman from, I think it was Switzerland, somewhere in Europe, who was staying at his hostel and wanted to go visit her again. And he just like couldn't even get approved for a visa.
Yeah.
She even wrote in on his behalf, like as a citizen, explaining like, he's coming to stay with me. Like, and he couldn't even get approved. Like they wouldn't even let him come. So
Americans get some natural favor.
Yeah.
Just internationally. Let's go back to planning. So you decided this is real. I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to make a go of it. So you start banking your money, of course. How do you start thinking about planning? Because the world's big.
The world's really big. So I solo traveled most of my trip, but I was planning some of it around some of my friends. And we were kind of going back and forth between doing South America and Southeast Asia, because those are two kind of like, I don't know, really great areas to backpack in. Landed on doing Southeast Asia, and they knew that they would be able to meet me in there sometime around July. So I kind of built out the first half of my travels around that. And I knew that I really wanted to spend time in Europe because that's where I had been planning on studying abroad. But also that I would not be able to afford it for long. Because Europe is way more expensive, and I blew through a lot of my budget when I was there. But I honestly didn't plan that far in advance. I planned out my first 3 weeks. So my first 2 weeks were with my friend Kevin, just going like really quickly through Europe, like hitting as many cities as we could. And then I knew that I wanted to go to Portugal for a music festival after that, because a lot of my favorite artists would be there.
Yeah, because you had done Berlin, Sicily, Turkey.
Yeah, we went all over. We started in Berlin, and we were there on my birthday.
I'm so sorry. Can you tell the story about the 6-story club?
Oh no.
This is like,
I don't know if this is the right audience for this.
This is week 1. I think this is the first week you were there. I don't think you were barely there 4 or 5 days. And Sydney's like, so there's this thing. And I'm like, tell me more.
All right. Well, okay, it's not 6 stories.
Okay, well, maybe I've exaggerated.
It's pretty big. Well, Berlin is really known for its like techno scene.
Right.
And they have these like really unreal clubs that are like 24 hours. They book some of the most like famous DJs in the world. And there was this one, if you know it, you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of known as like the most, like one of like the most famous like techno club in the world. I don't know. I wasn't super into techno before this, but
was Kevin the front door here?
Yeah, he was the one who told me about it. It just, I don't know. I'm down for any like, I'll call it like any like cultural experience. When in Berlin, you don all black and you go to the techno club. But
all black is the mild descriptor of the picture that Sydney sent me.
So
tell it about the getting in.
It's very exclusive because there's kind of a certain like subculture that they're trying to protect, and they don't really want just a bunch of like tourists coming in like for the spectacle of it all. But also I think just a lot of people want to come in general. So it's famously like very, very difficult to get in. I think almost everybody that I saw online got rejected.
Yeah.
So there's like quite a strict dress code. Like,
which is?
We have to dress in like all black, and then kind of like techno attire.
So techno attire, because you know my listeners are like grown moms.
Yeah.
And so techno attire in this case looked like.
Okay. This, just to give some like background, like this club like opened up like in East Berlin, like in the 80s. It also was originally like a queer club. And so, there's just like a certain like culture there that you have to partake in.
Dark black eyeliner and mesh and see-through and
a lot of leather, a lot of silver.
Yes.
Yeah, so
It was a look. And to be honest with you, Kevin was really slaying the look.
Oh, he looked incredible.
Yeah.
Me and Kevin picked up some like straight Australian boy, and we were hanging out with him the whole time we were in Berlin, and he just let us like turn him into a Ken doll.
He
Like,
did?
Yeah.
I
I put
remember
him in one of my like crop tops.
Oh,
we
boy.
did his makeup.
And he's straight?
Yeah, and he's straight. But there's like all these strategies to getting. Oh, sorry. There's all these strategies to getting in. Like, you're not supposed to like talk in line. You're supposed to act like very like chill, like nonchalant.
Okay.
Maybe wear your sunglasses. It's recommended to not go in a big group. So I went in line by myself.
And they famously aren't keen on Americans, right?
No, so I was going to really try and not say anything because they throw out Americans most of the time. And I got the advice to like go by myself because they like people who look like you're just like really there for the techno. Like you're just there. Like I'm just like by myself.
Okay.
I'm wearing.
So like you went ahead of the boys?
I went ahead of the boys.
Oh, I
I'm
didn't know
wearing
that.
a black bikini and then a net.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the right word.
And a fanny pack.
That's correct.
With my essentials. And it just made my hair huge. And I'm wearing my hiking boots because I'm so bad at hiking. So it was like, should I wear my hiking boots? Should I wear my Tevas? Apparently you also don't get in if you wear white sneakers.
Oh.
Yeah. And so that was my other shoe. So I wore my hiking boots, but I think I kind of made it work.
You're like,
and then
I'm just weird. I'm just edgy.
Yeah. And then I told the boys to go in together because I thought maybe it would look like they were
They're gay. Yeah.
Which would help. We waited in line for like 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And I could get up to the front and like the bouncer is this very famous, like gigantic, like intimidating German guy. And we like memorized some of like the DJs because they like kind of ask you some questions.
Oh.
They ask if you've been there before, you lie and say yes.
Oh.
And he stares me down for maybe like 90 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just like trying to keep my cool. Like I'm trying not to smile. I'm trying not to say anything. And I almost make it. And then I go, "What's up?" And he just bursts out laughing.
Oh,
but he let
boy.
me in. Yeah.
Okay.
And the boys got in too. And we stayed until 10 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my God.
Like people pack snacks. Like they have a locker room. Some people go and
They
like
have a
stay for the
locker
entire
room?
weekend. Yeah. Yeah. It was
My
unreal.
gosh.
And it's in this old like World War II factory.
That's crazy.
It's just this giant like industrial space. It
Like,
was
did you
unreal.
like it?
It was incredible.
It was?
It was so much fun. This is easy to say once I got in, but once I got in, I was like, I understand why they're so strict because the people in there were just so cool, like really expressive. It was so cool to see everybody like dancing. The music was really intense, but very like hypnotic. And
Gosh.
yeah, you just...
And so it's all dark in there and you stumble outside and it's the light of day and you're confused.
Well, it was really cool because there was like a huge group of us, like hundreds of people kind of started leaving around the same time and it was light outside and we were all in complete dark. And then we get onto the subway and we're crossing all the people going to the the farmer's market, like with their like baskets and like their little
sure.
like
their
Saturday
jeans.
morning outfits.
Yeah.
And then we're just all like
In your net.
dripping in sweat and there's like black makeup all over our faces. And
Oh boy. Okay, so that was like literally bang out of the gate.
Yeah,
So then
yeah.
you end up in Portugal. Kevin takes his leave like in Turkey maybe?
yeah, we go to, from Berlin, we go to Sicily because he found $25 tickets.
Okay.
They were no bag. So when I went to check in, he kind of was chatting with them and I set my bag behind a large pillar. I go check in. No, I'm sorry. I go to check in and then let me get the story right.
Okay.
I wasn't allowed to bring any bags on the flight. It was $25, super budget airline.
Oh, yes.
And
Oh, my
so
gosh.
if you like have
Was it
a bag-
Ryanair?
It was Ryanair.
I knew it.
Yeah, it was Ryanair. So if you have a bag, they charge you like $100.
Yeah.
And so basically I check in first and then I set my bag behind a big pillar.
Oh, boy.
And then he goes in and it's kind of like distracting them a little bit.
Oh, my
And then
gosh.
I go behind the pillar, grab my bag and
And
run in
got
there.
on?
Yeah, and I got on.
For free?
Yeah.
You game the system?
Sorry if you're listening, Ryanair.
Well, I mean also Ryanair is devastating.
Yeah, it was the sketchiest plane I've ever been on. It was worse than like the planes I went on in India.
Yeah.
It was scary. I have one family member who works in like airline regulation, and when I told her that I was flying Ryanair, like she was pissed. She was like, "You cannot fly that." Yeah. I've read the reports. It's dangerous.
We flew from Barcelona to Athens on Ryanair. And what I want you to picture is that, you know, in the front row where the armrests are, It's not like the kind that retract, go up and down, and are sort of movable. It's the kind that's like one whole plastic piece.
Yeah.
So they're permanent. So those seats are just smaller by nature because there's just no give to them. And the person that had that seat on Ryanair, which is already a garbage flight,
Was it Trey Pruitt?
it was Trey Pruitt.
Yeah.
And he's a big guy. He's a beefy guy. And we got tickled and started laughing and couldn't quit laughing because he was squozing there like a sausage.
Squozing.
Yeah. Anyways, it was maybe the worst flight I've ever been on. But
Yeah.
okay. Anyway, back. So.
Oh yes, Oh shoot, where did we go after that?
Turkey.
I feel like I'm missing something. God, I went to so many places. Yeah, I think we went to Turkey
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah.
Then we went to Turkey, Istanbul, which was just unreal.
Everybody says that.
Yeah, it was so gorgeous. It was so amazing. It's really interesting because it's like literally right at the point between Asia and Europe. And there's a river that goes through it and it kind of separates both continents and you can really see the influence from both. But I didn't know that it's 5 times the population of New York City. It's the most visited city in all of Europe. I think it's easy to have just like a very like Western centric view of the world.
Of course.
And then you go somewhere like Istanbul and you're like,
Totally different.
yeah, like mind blown. But then we parted ways there.
And then you went to Portugal.
And then I went to Portugal.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So you had a friend meet you there, and then you had a sister meet you there.
Yes.
Remy Hatmaker asked, she graduated from high school. Sydney left May 21st on this trip, and Remy graduated basically the next week. And she asked for her present, her high school graduation present, for a plane ticket to go see Sydney on her adventure, and you were very nice.
Sister of the year.
You allowed it.
I might have encouraged it after some wine one night, and then all of a sudden it was real, and she was like, "I'm coming to Portugal," and I was
coming
like,
for 8 days or whatever it was.
But I'm surfing with my friend Jenny.
Yeah.
She tried to do 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks, and I
Yeah.
was like, "What if we did an easy week and a half?"
Yeah.
Love her.
Yeah.
But
yeah. This
so
wasn't
I had
a
a teenager
sister
on a
vibe.
portion of my
That's
trip.
right. That's right. You parented for 8 days of your trip or
No,
whatever it was.
It was sweet. It was fun.
She loved it.
We got to go to Lisbon Pride together.
Oh, yeah.
And it was cute.
Yeah. And then you went to your music festival and you went to surf camp in Portugal. Is it called surf camp?
Yeah,
Surf
it's called surf camp. It's like these hostels run by just a bunch of like surfers and skaters, and you just spend like hours every day learning, and then you just
I mean, Portugal is known for surfing. Like people travel there from all over the world for the surfing. So
yeah, it was gorgeous.
Gorgeous, interesting, beautiful.
It's one of the hardest things I've ever done. Surfing is so hard. But then of course the challenges kept eclipsing each other on my trip. So that Portugal ended the Europe portion. I bought a last minute ticket to Barcelona.
Oh
for my
gosh, that's
last
right.
week.
And you did Sagrada Familia. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I saw the Sagrada Familia, which was like, when it comes to like art and history, like that was the highlight of the Europe portion of my trip. Like, it was just absolutely unreal. Ended up going and just like walking around the whole building for hours, listening to podcasts, and it was just
Did you feel nervous because that whole entire first month you were with somebody? You were with Kevin, and then you were with Jenny and Remy, and you are a raging extrovert, on fire Enneagram 7. You are all the people all the time. You're not a person who likes all alone time like me. And so you had said in advance, not that you were nervous, but you were just like keeping your eye on how you were going to feel to be alone. And that was really the first time that you were alone.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd never even taken like a 1-day trip by myself before this. And so committing to like this much solo travel was quite intense. And I knew that I would like meet really amazing people, but I don't know, I also was interested in the challenge of it and in being with myself so much. I was by myself in Portugal for a week before Jenny came, which is nice, kind of like dip my toe in the water.
But knowing there was a very quick ending.
Yeah, well, I guess I wasn't dipping my toe in the water because I went to a music festival. I hadn't been to a concert by myself, even much less like a 3-day music festival. And I will say it was an adjustment. It was challenging at first. Solo traveling, I definitely landed in Porto and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like it's like traveling feels really different and way more real when you're by yourself. And I was just facing down, just like months and months of this trip left that I had planned. And I did have a bit of like a panic at first where I'm like, what am I doing? Why did I decide to do this by myself?
Yeah.
Why did I decide to do this for so long? I could have just gone for 2 months. Why did I decide that it had to be 6 months?
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know, the universe challenged me a little bit. My hostel was weird in Porto and I wasn't really meeting people that I liked. And yeah, it was a struggle at first. And at times I felt kind of self-conscious or kind of lonely. And I ended up kind of just like scrambling to like join whatever hostel events there were or like hang out with whoever was around me. And I wasn't having that much fun or like something felt off. And then I think I had the first moment where I had to confront like my own goals for traveling and like why I wanted to solo travel and kind of what I wanted to get out of this experience, and was kind of able to get real with myself and just realize like I wasn't just traveling to have fun, to hang out with people, to party, whatever. Like I can do those things anywhere. I can do those things back home. Like I really wanted to grow and I wanted to spend time with myself and I wanted to learn about myself. And I don't know, I just wanted to have like special experiences and big experiences, like good ones and like hard ones. You know, I wanted to challenge myself. And so I think it was kind of good to have that mindset shift. And then in Barcelona, I was able to really practice just like being by myself. I didn't try so hard to make friends at first. I just like had my headphones and went from museum to museum and just had like an incredible time and just felt this like complete like euphoria and just like trust with myself, and also realized like, I mean, I had known this before, but just that, like I love my own company and also that like my company is better company than just some random person that I'm
it's
not
just
like organically
a filler.
really connecting with. Yeah. And then I found after kind of having that and kind of being able to have a bit more trust and like kind of let go around those anxieties for the rest of my trip, I was really easily connecting with people, and just happened like amazing people were just like
without trying to force it.
Yeah, without forcing it. I was just meeting incredible people and making like amazing friends. And I ended up not actually spending much time alone at all for the rest of my trip. But
that was kind of a fun little section of the trip, because when you were discovering that and kind of developing your legs for being alone and without feeling self-conscious or needy or lonely, that's when I was at me camp. And so I was also traveling solo. So that was fun to get to talk to you at the same time, doing similar things in very different ways. But like me on my 4th summer of knowing, oh no, I love being by myself.
yeah.
And I have no problem bringing my book into a bar.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, taking a walk by myself or laying on, it doesn't matter. I enjoyed it completely. And it is so true that when you're not squeezing that into some different shape, you end up making like really interesting connections with people.
Yeah. I mean, I just ended up falling in love with the feeling of just like complete freedom of traveling by myself, like on any given day, like getting to do exactly what I wanted to do, go anywhere that I wanted to go, stay as long as I wanted, leave when I wanted, eat what I wanted. It felt amazing. But I remember talking to you while you were at me camp, and you also inspired me because I think you're someone who's really, you're not shy, even though you're introverted, and you're really good at connecting with people. And it's very common to like make friends in hostels because it's mostly solo travelers and people are very open to that.
Yeah.
They want to make friends. Often we're going to do like the same,
Activities
and stuff. But I think you're someone who like, I don't know, you'll talk to someone random like at a bar and get their whole life story.
For sure.
Or you'll kind of like meet people and then follow up with them and then go get dinner with them or whatever. And so I was trying to do that as well. And yeah, it's crazy to just, you can just talk to anyone around you. You're just like at any point in the world, like even if you're alone, you're just like surrounded by people who have a whole life and you can just connect to them.
Truly.
And people are so welcoming and so kind kind of everywhere in the world. And I think they have good intentions. I wasn't an anxious or paranoid traveler. I think I just enjoyed like trusting people and like, I don't know, I connected with so many amazing people.
Before we move to the second half, because from there you went over to Asia and then particularly Southeast Asia for the big chunk of it. But before because that's a gear shift in every way, like different part of the world, different kind of budget, different kind of experience, different type of, all of it. How did you, because I'm thinking about the people listening today who, number one, would love to travel like this, even in a shorter time frame, if they can't do 6 months, whatever, or their kids are more like your age and considering it. There's a pretty developed, robust backpacking culture that you like tapped into in the planning stage. Because I'm like, where are you going to stay? What are you going to do? Like, it's not all from scratch. Like there is, you can drop your line in the water and really pull up all kinds of information. So how did you, like, specifically, where did you go when you're thinking, where do I learn about everything? Hostels. And you even talked about really well-charted sort of backpacker paths.
It's like a route.
Routes through like different countries. So anyway, there is a way to like, structure this sort of. Structure it loosely.
I got a lot of my information from just like backpacker blogs, which is kind of a little bit old school. But they're so helpful. And that's where I really learned there's kind of like certain routes people do, certain like sites people see, adventures they have, like things that they learn. There's even this one called like the banana pancake trail, because famously so many of these hostels feed you like banana pancakes for breakfast in the morning. And it like is this big route through Southeast Asia. It's kind of a general flow of like buses that you take and ferries that you take, and it makes this big like loop through Southeast Asia. And so I kind of roughly followed that. And in fact, I ended up bumping into the same people all over the trail, like in different countries, in different cities, which was really awesome. I got a lot of information from social media even, like TikTok,
like looking up
YouTube.
Hashtags and
exactly. And just seeing like where are people going, what hostels are they staying at. Hostel World is a great resource. You just look up like literally any city or town in the whole world and it pulls up hostels and homestays. And you can like put in your budget, put in like certain things you're looking for. Like some of them have like breakfast included. Some of them have like surfing included, or some of them do like scuba diving classes, and you can read reviews. So I found a lot on there. And then, I mean, honestly, where I got most of my travel resources from were just talking to other travelers. As
you were going, not in advance.
Well, I ended up planning about, I'd say 1 week to 1 day in advance.
Oh boy.
While I was in Asia, like I booked a lot of things for like the very next day. As I was traveling, I just kind of found like, I don't know, you don't want to plan these things too far in advance because you just don't know like how you're going to feel. Sometimes you absolutely fall in love with a city and you just want to stay longer. Or sometimes you get somewhere and it doesn't feel right and you want to leave, or like the hostel doesn't feel right and you want to switch ones. And I did meet some people who had booked out like flights and things even like for like months at a time and ended up feeling kind of locked into that schedule and regretted it. I was maybe a bit too spontaneous.
A little too loose?
Sometimes that created some anxiety, and also sometimes just like buses are sold out, ferries are full, hostels are full, whatever. But I really enjoyed that spontaneity.
Oh boy.
But I mean like, my friends and I went to this one like tiny island off the coast of Malaysia that was like a mile across, no roads on it. And it just had this little like scuba and snorkeling community, and then this small like fisherman's village. And we ended up staying for a week and loved it so much, just because we met one girl for like 30 minutes in Kuala Lumpur, and she told us about it and said she loved it so much, and we just like booked tickets for 2 days later and just went.
That's where it's just good to have some of that flexibility built in, where you've not pre-done it all. That makes me feel tight
Right.
I feel tight
That's okay.
when you say that. I would have been the one who had all my flights booked for 6 months.
Well, I didn't really fly unless I absolutely had to save money.
Yeah.
Like Grace and I once save $60 on a 1 hour flight through Indonesia. Indonesia's almost all islands. We had, I think it was like a 40-hour travel day.
Oh my God.
In which we took a car to a bus. And this is like we booked this through some like locals, like for the whole time we didn't see any other Westerners. Like this is like the cheapest travel we could find. But a car to a bus, to a ferry, to a bus across the island, to another ferry, to a different island, to a train, to a taxi, to a scooter, to our hostel.
Oh my God.
We just slept on the bus, like upright. Like there were 2 nights that we saved $60. And that's how we're able to travel for so long.
Well,
and it's kind of an adventure.
That's a good segue because obviously when you're in Europe, you were just spending money like you would never run out because Europe's expensive. And also that was the front of your trip where you felt like I have so much money. Have so much money.
Yeah.
But it's just so much more expensive. But by the time you got over to Southeast Asia, like this would be an average of what a hostel cost, what a meal would cost. Be sure to tune in next week because you won't want to miss the incredible second half of our conversation where we dive into Sydney's really like unforgettable adventures in Southeast Asia.